You know, I'm really curious to see how well this 4.5 runs after putting a new chain in the engine. You saw how loose that chain was. Well, I've completed rolling the new chain into the engine. Here you can see the old chain, and I've got it ready to connect. I would have had this done a few days ago, but I decided, wow, I need to shoot some videos about this whole process. There's some real pitfalls and some things that could get you in trouble. Plus, when doing this job, I said, oh, I need to come up with a new tool. I mean, come on, this always happens. You got to have a better tool. When you're rolling these chains in, you need to be able to turn the engine over, and you need to be able to turn the engine over slowly and smoothly. And that means, for me, you need to get on the front crank bolt. Now, some people say they can tighten up the power steering bolts and turn the nut on the power steering pump pulley, but I prefer to do it with a crank. But on these V8s, you got to get way down in there. You don't have a lot of room. Of course, you don't want to take the time to pull the radiator. You do have to pull the fan and the shroud. I like to do it from up above. You can jack the car up and have someone turn the engine over from underneath. But I like to do it from up above because I use a helper, and when I use a helper, I've got an extra set of hands here while we're feeding the new chain in, and that's very critical. But sure enough, look at that. You've got to get a really, really long ratchet and just the right length extension on the socket to get in there and easily turn the engine over. And when I do this, of course, I have someone else turning the engine over smoothly while I'm manipulating the chain. You obviously have to remove the spark plugs. I point that out in my manual because you need the engine to turn over without fighting compression. Okay. You're going to need to remove the fan and the shroud to gain access. But then you're going to need a wrench. Now, originally I started out with this flex head ratchet wrench. For years I used this, and I'd have to sometimes tape a handle on it. But the floppy head was kind of a problem, so I taped that up to keep it from flopping. The size socket you're going to need is either a 27 millimeter or you can use a 1 1/16 inch. If you use a shallow socket, you're going to need about 3 inches of extension. If you use a deep socket, you're going to need about 1 inch to 1.5 inches extension. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to source a socket and extension that will be the right length. You see here I have to use 2 extensions here, but if this is available, you'll be able to find it on my website. As far as the wrench, this is what I'm using now, and I'm sure you're saying, well, Kent, how did you get such a long ratchet wrench? I don't do this for torque. I do this for ease of movement. When I get it down in here and get it on the pulley, I want this up above the top of the radiator so the person working with me can easily move it slowly and smoothly. When you have this length of wrench, you're down way down here like this, and your hand's down between the radiator and the engine. It's not quite as comfortable. You don't have quite as much control. So what I do to make this wrench, and I'm not going to make these and sell them because it's not that difficult, is you need this extendable 1/2 inch drive ratchet. Now, this is the one we sell on my website. Okay, you can do this yourself. What I do is I cut the end of the rubber off. You can either cut the rubber completely off or just cut the end off. And then what you're going to do is get a long 1/2 inch extension like this and just put some tape, maybe 2 layers of blue tape on the end. And there's a hole there. So you can shove that down in there like this, and you can have a nice long ratchet wrench. This is handy for other things as well, but it's really handy particularly for turning engines over while doing any type of valve maintenance or while you're putting a new chain in. So you can adjust it at this end, so if you don't need it quite that long, of course you can adjust this end in and out. But that gives you a ratchet wrench that's 2 feet in length. And that's the way I do it. Once again, using the wrench, you want to make sure the person helping you is turning it over slowly and smoothly